Let's talk about some structures that we have all been operating under that are very old, and let's talk about some structures that are coming forth that are very exciting and very new. So, what I'm talking about here is, first of all, the old structures that have been around for ages. It's called the hierarchy. Some of you call it the patriarchy. I don't get into all of that. I'm looking at the architecture and the systems design behind the society and the schools and politics and business that we've all been indoctrinated into that has done a very good job of getting our culture and our personal lives where we are today. So the hierarchy involves, as you well know, experts, authorities, top-down approach, where there's a set of rules and guidelines and systems that we need to follow in order to be successful. And these have worked. The Industrial Revolution, technological revolution, some of the business advancements, healthcare advancements, things like that. We don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's a lot of talk about how everything is crushing and everything needs to be thrown away and start anew. How about if we use what's good about what has gotten us here so far and build upon that? But I think it's really clear that these hierarchies, these experts, these authoritarian sort of mentality and structures are withering, and they will not support the consciousness that's being birthed right now. And that's the exciting part. What am I actually talking about? Well, if you look at the civil unrest that's going on in our country, around the globe, especially in America, it's a beautiful testament to the fact that the structures we are tied to and wed to don't support us. They're not big enough. They're not advanced enough. And people, either consciously or unconsciously, know this. So they're tearing it down. What is here to be in its place, or as a complement to this hierarchical, top-down, I'm in charge, follow the rules model? And by the way, in some areas you need hierarchy. I need mentors and guides to tell me what I don't know. I need structures and some structures in place so that my streets are safe, or my water supply is clean and whatnot. So we're not going to tear it all down, but what needs to be birthed from that is this thing called heterarchy, or the synarchy, where it is a self-organizing, more distributed model, where the collective and the collaboration is the ethos. And when added to a hierarchical model, then you have the best of both worlds. Now, most people don't quite understand this concept of heterarchy. Some of you do if you're in advanced business systems. There are a couple of businesses out there that are following this model. Ours is one of them. But let me just kind of pop it into a visual for you. I think we all know those incredible bird formations. They're called the starlings. And it's called a starling murmuration, where they're in a flock and you see them in the sky. And it's this incredible dance, this choreography of their swooping and swaying. And there's one that leads, and then swoosh, it dips and dives. And then another part of the organism leads, and then swoosh, that dips and dives, and another part takes over and leads. And so it's this divine dance of leaders and followers and actors and directors. And it's just this glorious synergy that occurs. How do you possibly use this or map this or start this in your own life? Well, first of all, I just wanted you to know that this is what's happening. And if you are attached to the old hierarchical models, you will get crushed. You can see they're falling apart. But you personally will not thrive if you're not attuned to a new order, a new paradigm. So if you map this to your own life, like, what am I talking about? Do my kids now become the boss? And is it this socialist, communist, society? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about having a more elevated way to organize your life. So let's just take one example. Let's say your family structure. If you have a really heavy top-down approach where not only the parents are the authoritarians, but the schools are the authoritarians, and the society tells you how to educate your children, and then you tell your kids what education looks like. I see this in my community in spades, where there is one track and it's a top down, and you climb that ladder And if you need to have blinders on to climb that ladder. It happens in corporate. You start here, and then you have to perform here, and you have to perform here and here. You climb that ladder. It's the only way. Well, what about what's on either side of you? What about a more dynamic choreography? So when it comes to educating your kids, look at the unschooling movement. Look at the homeschooling movement, where like, okay, that structure might have worked way back, but I think we want to loosen it up and let it breathe and grow a little bit and have a more dynamic, collaborative, collective experience. I'm not going to get into the homeschooling, unschooling movement because I'm not an expert in that, but that is a perfect example of breaking the mold, breaking the model. When it comes to your business, I can only share with you what we've done, and I offer this, hopefully plant a seed in you so that if you've been in the old model that is cracking quickly, I want you to get another ethos in your business and in your life. So here at the New Life model and in our business, we saw some of these shifts coming down the pike, and we've leveraged and positioned ourselves so that we don't get taken out by the waves. So what have we done? Well, not only do we have an online aspect to our business, we also have an offline aspect to our business. So we didn't want to put all our eggs in one basket. We knew that we could have a bigger impact if we got out of the box called online business or offline business, and we're trying to have them overlap and swing and flow and dance together. It's a little bit of it's just a new model. And I'm a recovering business coach, so my recovering business coach identity goes, what are you people doing? But I know that this dance between online and offline, which doesn't sound that revolutionary, is actually incorporating this dynamic hierarchy as well as this hierarchical model. We also do inner and we do outer work. So we recognize that you can't just do the talk in front of the computer and just do inner work. I mean, some people claim you could, but we feel like the new model is to get your body involved and to actually live it, breathe it, act it out, bring it out into the world. So that is how we have adapted to some of the old traditional boxes. I'm really talking about boxes that we can put ourselves in that we want to break out. So where are you tethered is really the question. This is a difficult thing to explain. I don't know that I've been very articulate this morning, but it's a very difficult thing to explain when you are thinking about what's new, but there's no real great examples except the Starlings model to teach you about it. We're doing this in our group programs that we're running now, where yes, I am the leader, Michael's one of the leaders, and we guide and we teach, and you are equally as empowered in our groups, because we know we're not the only ones with genius. You are also. It goes right down to the brass tack of people who enroll in our programs. We have a process where we find your divine right price, because who am I as an expert, as a business owner, to tell you how much you can afford? And so my whole pricing model has shifted in the group programs, not so much in some other programs, where we have a conversation so I can listen to where you're at and where you need to stretch so that you'll get the most out of what we're doing. And this is, I don't see this anywhere else in my business, and people lean in and go, what are you doing? And it's like, well, I'm actually applying the not one size fits all rule to how I run my business and how I invite people into our tribe. So where are you tethered to something that somebody told you was the way it was supposed to be? Where are you really lockstep with, well, this is how it's always done? We've talked before about how cutting off the sides of the ham, that whole anecdote where, Joey says, Mom, why does the ham have no ends? Why is it cut off at the end? And she says, well, Grandma did it. And go to Grandma, and Grandma says, well, Grandma did it. And so it's basically, when you finally get down to the great-great-great-grandmother, she says, well, it wouldn't fit in the pan. And so it's a time to investigate these hierarchies, these structures, these authoritarian ways of being, and have some dominion and intuition. This is also a time of balance. Well, it's the time balance is being called for, because what you see, the strife in the world right now, especially in America, oh boy, it's tough to look at the headlines. We're so out of balance, and this hierarchical structure is part of the reason why this The system that has gotten us very far as a culture is just outdated. So when you see the strife in your own life or out there, it's just because it's an outdated model. So lean into the new models, which, like I said, are heterarchy, synarchy, synergy, collaboration, connection, and more. So think of the Starlings model. If I invite you to Google on YouTube, Starlings Murmuration, it's called, and just watch how they dance. And then decide, are there areas in your life that you could apply that model to? Because a rising tide lifts all boats. And that's what we're going for here. Anyway, thanks for tuning in to this sort of heady conversation, but honestly, it is the one to be having. It is the place to be looking. So we'll come back later with more on this.